Every morning at 6:47 a.m., a 150-pound Great Dane named Onyx walks down the hallway of a small house in Northern California, past the coffee maker, past the front door, and stops at exactly one place: the nursery. He sits there, he waits, he doesn't move, until he hears the soft breathing of an 18-month-old girl named Hazel on the other side of that door. And only then, only when he knows she's safe, does the rest of his day begin. Onyx wasn't supposed to be this dog. In fact, according to almost everyone Claire knew, Onyx was supposed to be a mistake. Claire adopted Onyx 2 years before Hazel was born. He was 11 months old, already 120 pounds, and already returned to the shelter twice. The first family said he was too big. They'd imagined a puppy that would stay small enough for their apartment. Instead, within 4 months, Onyx outgrew their couch, their kitchen, and their patience. The second family said he was too intense, too quiet, too watchful. They said he stared at their toddler in a way that made them uncomfortable. What they didn't realize was that he wasn't watching her with threat. He was watching her with devotion. But nobody explained that to them, so they drove him back. The shelter staff told Claire gently that Great Danes this size often get overlooked. Families come in looking for a friendly face and a wagging tail. They don't come in looking for something the size of a small horse. And Onyx had been staring at the same concrete wall for 47 days. Claire had driven to the shelter that morning to look at a small terrier mix. She left with a black giant who barely fit in the back seat of her Subaru. Her sister cried when she saw him, not because he was scary, but because Claire was pregnant, newly pregnant, 8 weeks along and already terrified of everything. "You can't keep a dog that size with a newborn," her sister said. "Claire, think about this. That dog weighs more than you do." The vet warned her, the pediatrician warned her, a well-meaning neighbor told her a story about a Great Dane who knocked over a toddler, and Claire cried in her car for 20 minutes afterward. But here's the thing nobody tells you about Great Danes. Beneath all that size, beneath those long legs and that enormous chest, they are the softest creatures in the world. And Onyx had been waiting his whole life to love something small. If a story like this is already tugging at you, I have to tell you something honestly. I see you watching, and I see you still haven't subscribed. That actually breaks my heart a little. Just hit that subscribe button. Trust me, you're going to want to see where this goes. The day Claire brought Hazel home from the hospital, she was shaking. Not from exhaustion, though there was plenty of that, from fear. She had practiced introducing Onyx to the baby 100 times in her head. She had a blanket with Hazel's scent already laid out. She had her husband, Daniel, standing between them. Onyx walked into the living room, slowly. He looked at the small bundle in Claire's arms. He looked at Claire. And then, very deliberately, he lowered his massive body to the floor, belly down, and laid his head flat against the rug. He didn't approach, he didn't sniff, he just waited to be invited. Claire would later say that was the moment she knew everything was going to be okay. From that very first day, Onyx chose Hazel, and he chose her in a way Claire had never seen a dog choose anyone. When Hazel napped in her bouncer, Onyx laid next to it, one enormous paw resting gently on the frame, as if to say, "I've got her." When Claire walked Hazel in the stroller, Onyx walked on the outside, always on the outside, placing himself between the baby and the street, without anyone teaching him to do it. When Hazel cried at 3 a.m., Onyx was already at the nursery door before Claire was even out of bed. He learned her rhythms before Claire did. He knew when she was hungry, he knew when she was tired. He could tell the difference between a cry that meant, "I need my mother," and a cry that meant something is wrong, and he only ever came running for the second one. Claire used to joke that Onyx was a better parent than she was. Daniel would laugh, but some nights when she was exhausted and Hazel had finally drifted back to sleep, she'd find Onyx curled on the nursery floor like a guardian statue, and she'd whisper, "Thank you," and he'd thump his tail once against the hardwood. Message received. And then there was the ball. Hazel had a bright blue ball, the kind you'd find at any dollar store, and it became the center of their entire relationship. Onyx would pick it up in his massive mouth, carry it across the living room at a pace so careful it looked like slow motion, and drop it gently in front of Hazel. She would squeal, he would wait, she would push it back, he would pick it up again. They could do this for an hour, sometimes longer. Daniel filmed it once. In the video, you can hear Claire laughing off camera and saying, "He really thinks she's his puppy." And maybe she was right, because what happened next was something no one expected. Stories like this are the reason we do what we do. There's so much more to their journey, and I promise you the best part is still coming. It was a Tuesday in February. Hazel was 14 months old, just starting to walk, wobbling around the living room like a tiny drunk sailor. Claire was in the kitchen, maybe 20 feet away, pouring herself a cup of coffee. She heard Onyx bark. Claire froze. Onyx didn't bark. Onyx almost never barked. In 2.5 years, she could count on one hand the number of times she'd heard that deep chest rumbling sound. She ran into the living room. Hazel was standing near the fireplace. She had pulled herself up using the brick ledge, and she was reaching, her tiny fingers stretching for a heavy iron decoration on the mantel. If it had fallen, it would have fallen directly on her head. Onyx was between them. His 150-pound body was pressed flush against the bricks, his back against the fireplace, blocking Hazel's path entirely. She was patting his side, giggling and not understanding, and he was staring at Claire with those enormous brown eyes that said one thing: "Come get her. I can't hold forever." Claire scooped Hazel up. She carried her to the couch, she sat on the floor, and she wept into Onyx's neck while he licked the tears off her cheek. Later that night, Daniel moved the iron decoration to a high shelf, but Claire kept thinking about something. Onyx hadn't run toward the sound of Hazel falling. He hadn't reacted to a crash. He'd moved into position before anything happened. He'd seen it coming. Somehow, from across the room, that dog had understood what a 14-year-old was about to do, and he'd gotten there first. Claire told that story to the vet the following week. The vet smiled and said something Claire has never forgotten. Some dogs protect out of training. Some dogs protect out of instinct. But the best ones, they protect out of love. Hazel is almost 2 now. Onyx is 4. He still walks her to her crib every night. He still sits outside her door at 6:47 a.m. He still carries that stupid blue ball around the house like it's made of glass. People still comment. People still warn. A woman at the park last week said, "Aren't you scared having a dog that size around a toddler?" Claire just smiled, because she knows what most people don't. The biggest dogs aren't the dangerous ones. The biggest dogs are usually the ones waiting their whole life to protect something small enough to love. So tell me honestly, do you believe a dog chooses his family, or do you think the family chooses the dog? Which one was Onyx? Let me know in the comments.